But then there was a day I was driving very kind of a little too fast down a country road and just singing to the music, just enjoying the road. And JT has a special way that he likes to get my attention. He's done this from the beginning. He scratches my head. He scratches right here like he's pulling my hair. And so he did that as I'm driving, and I said, "Oh, what's up? What do you need?" And he said, "Slow down." And I looked down at my speedometer going, "Oh yeah, I guess I'm going 15 miles over the speed limit, 15 miles per hour over the speed limit. I guess I better slow down." So I slowed down just in time to come over this hill, and there was a sheriff at the bottom of the hill. And so I said, "Thanks, bud." And he goes, "No problem." And I thought, I heard that.
Welcome to the Light the Day podcast, where we explore spiritually transformative experiences. I'm your host, Julie Clough, and today I have on the show Sarina Baptista. Hi, Sarina.
Hi, Julie. It is so fun to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
I am so excited about this conversation. I've read your book. We've met once before, and your story is just it's challenging, but it's also very beautiful. So I'm excited for you to share it with us today. Before we get started, will you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, definitely. And you know what this is like because you have a child on the other side as well. And that's how I began my journey. My 7-year-old son transitioned in 2007. He caught the flu on a Sunday night. And Friday, I went into his room and he wasn't breathing. And that began our nightmare. I didn't realize that it wasn't a nightmare for him. He was doing great, but it was a nightmare for us. But what I discovered in the process, he's such a bright soul, such a just an incredible teacher. And he led me to the people who I needed to meet, to wherever I needed to go to learn who I was, truly, why I came here. And my purpose is being a medium. That is my purpose. I am also an award winning author. As you can see, his book is in the background. He has won multiple awards for his book. And what I mean by that is he channeled it through me, and it's an incredible book about what happened when he left, and where he went, and what we're doing here. Why did we come to earth to begin with? The other things I do a lot of teaching. I love to teach others. When I learned how to connect with the other side, I thought, wow, this has got to be a complicated process. And I learned it wasn't really complicated. It's work, it's dedication, it's practice. Just like if you're doing any other work, you're not just going to, run out and do a marathon. You're going to practice, you're going to stretch those muscles, you're going to do the things that you need to do to hone your craft. And so I got into training as soon as I learned that I was a medium and started doing readings within a month. It was very fast, almost too fast. I didn't know what the
Wow.
heck I was doing, at the time, 1 month into training. And kids from the other side were coming to me to get messages to their parents. It was so awkward. It just felt so awkward. But JT was there, just pushing me along. And, it was difficult to talk to him at first. As you know, gosh, that grief takes over. I mean, we're talking 2007, March, he left, and I discovered I was a medium in September. So just 6 months
Oh
later.
my goodness. I can't even
Yeah,
imagine. It was really fascinating for me to read your book because my kids transitioned in a car accident in May of 2007, just about 6 weeks after your
that's right.
JT transitioned. And I can tell you that in September of that year, I was still in bed. I was not, I was not aware of any of this for quite a while. Take us back a little bit into kind of, well, tell us a little bit about JT as a little
Oh.
boy and your experience with him here.
Wow, he's what they call a spirited child, and that's funny that they use that term now that now that he's transitioned. But definitely, I read all of the Spirited Child books because he was a handful. And it was interesting what would motivate him. He loved NASCAR, he loved to help people. You would not believe at his funeral, all of his little friends came. He was 7 when he left. His friends came to the funeral. We had 2 different funerals. We had an adult funeral and then a kid funeral. We wanted to keep that kid funeral kind of light,
Oh,
and not as heavy. And the kid funeral, all these kids stood up and said, "JT was my best friend." And
oh,
they would tell us stories at the funeral, about what JT did for them, about getting tissues for them when they were scared, or sharing lunch with them, or whatever it was. I knew nothing about this. I knew
wow.
my kid was special, always, of course. I mean, we're moms, of course our kids are special, but I didn't realize the impact that he had here in his short 7.5 year time that he was on the planet. And so just incredible, just an incredible kid, definitely a mama's boy, absolutely a mama's boy. So that night or early morning, actually, he was having such a hard time. He had the flu and he was having such a hard time, just existing, and just so uncomfortable. And I was lying down with him in his room, and he popped up and he said, "Mom, go to your room." And I said, "Well, do you want to try the other bed, the big bed, see if we can get you to go to sleep?" He said, "No, you go. I want to watch TV." And he knew that I couldn't sleep with the TV on. And so that was his way of sending me away so he could leave. I learned later, he had so much help. He had amazing helpers who were feeding him this information. And, so I did leave. I did leave the room. And I learned later that, he knew that he was leaving. In fact, that earlier that night, he came running up to me and he said, "Mom, I don't think I can make it." And
Mm,
I thought, "What in the world are you talking about? What do you
mm,
mean you can't make it?" And I said, "Do you want to go to the hospital? We can go to the hospital." He goes, "No, no, 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 no. I don't want to go to the hospital." We had a very bad experience at the hospital with him before. It was not a great experience. And so I don't blame him for not wanting to go. And he also later told me he wanted to leave at home. He didn't want to be in the hospital. He was
mhm,
going. He was going to
mhm,
leave. All of this, of course, I didn't know, but he was going to go and he wanted to be home. But I could tell by the sound in his voice that he was serious. He really didn't think he was going to make it, and he knew obviously that that's the case. And so it was 6 a.m. I left him at about 3:30, between 3:30 and 4 a.m. And 6:30 a.m. I went into or 6 a.m. I went in to check on him, and he wasn't breathing. And so that's when I screamed for my husband. I screamed for him to call 911. We both pulled him off of the bed and I started CPR. And I knew immediately he wasn't there. I knew that he was gone. And I even said to my husband, I said, he's gone. And my husband screamed at me, "Keep going, keep going." He was like, he of course couldn't even fathom that. We both couldn't fathom that. But there was just something about his little body, something about his little body there that I just knew he wasn't in it.
mhm,
Now, I was not, I was raised Catholic. And so we didn't talk a lot about the afterlife. But by that time in my life, I had done a lot of research. I had explored past lives and things like that. And so I knew that we had something else after this. And it just felt like he was there. I was mad though, and I would scream at him to get back into his body as I'm doing CPR on him.
wow.
And very soon, a policeman came and he took over the CPR because it's exhausting. It's exhausting work, even though it's on a tiny little body like that. And he took that. I went and got dressed because I knew we would be going to the hospital. And then the fire department came, the paramedics came, and they pulled him out into the hallway. I remember this so clearly, trying to get an airway. And there was no airway. And what's very, very interesting about that is, so then they took him to the hospital, and I followed in my car to the hospital, and they told me that he didn't make it. But the autopsy, of course, the coroner had to do an autopsy. It says nothing about an obstructed airway.
Oh, interesting.
Nothing. I know. And so I know that that's JT's little gift for me too, because he knew that I would hold that. I would hold that I didn't get him to the hospital, that I didn't do that for him. But he didn't want that. But human mom, you think, gosh, I should have gotten him to the hospital. Nope. No, he wanted to leave from home, and that's exactly what he did.
Well. You mentioned that he had helpers that were um, that were feeding him information. When you say that, explain a little bit about what you mean by that.
So there was definitely an energy. Her name is Hope. And she was helping him in telling him what to say, in again, getting me out of the room, telling me that it was going to be okay. She also, when he left, when he transitioned, she was right there helping him. This was a very close energy to him on the other side, and it was absolutely what he needed. I mean, here's a 7-year-old boy, and it was interesting. About 2 weeks before he left, he got so serious. This is a fun-loving kid, and he just got so serious. And again, I told him, lighten up. You're a child only once. Just have fun. And he was just so serious. And I really do feel again that was his soul coming through, this very advanced soul. But Hope was right there, helping him, telling him what to say, helping him afterward, giving him information about how this all works. Now he's an old soul. He is in a very advanced soul, master teacher energy. And so he knew, it was immediate that he knew what was happening, but it was just so comforting to know that there was this beautiful high frequency energy that was just holding him and helping him, especially given he was 7.5. And everybody has that, as I have learned. Everybody has somebody, whether it's a loved one that has already transitioned, or whether it is a beautiful energy like this, where it was an agreement. They agreed to this. Hope and JT agreed that when JT had to leave because he was going to go early, that she would be there to help him.
Yeah.
And that's what happened. Yeah. There were lots of other helpers too, of course, lots of other energies that were assisting. But she was the main one. And again, when I got connection with him and started asking him questions about why'd you go? What does this mean? What happened? And all of that. And again, My View from Heaven has a lot of that in it. It really is a wonderful book. And I can say that because I didn't write it, he did. And I love that because it's his perspective. It
Yeah.
is all his perspective. I think I have a paragraph in there of something that I clarified. He said something and I needed to clarify it. So I have a paragraph in there, but
Yeah.
the rest is his.
Yeah.
And it's just amazing the information that we can get, the information that he wanted to give to me and to others. And really, that's his job now, is to be that teacher for everybody. And it's my job to get that information out there.
Yeah, yeah. Your job to be the voice of his
Yes.
messages. Well, and I would say there's so many, I've talked to so many people who are feel so bad, or they're terribly sad that they weren't there for their loved ones when they passed. And just having that knowledge that there's heavenly help, or there's this spiritual help for them, and that they're not alone. It's
Right.
so comforting. It's so amazingly comforting. When did you start connecting with him where you were able to have these conversations?
It was a bit after I started training. There was this major block, of course, the grief. Again, I wasn't even a year into the grief yet. And so I continued to do my work. It was, the meditations and the connecting. And I was working with some beautiful high frequency guides and also started doing reading so I could read for others. It's so funny. I could read for others, but then whenever I would call JT in, I would start crying and I would, it's almost like the connection would get lost. And I say that because so many bereaved parents, so many moms, dads who are connecting with their kids on the other side, that happens to them. And then they get all frustrated with themselves and say, oh, I shouldn't be crying. And no, it is a natural, normal thing. We've got to grieve. We've got to go through that. It's a healing process. We've got to heal. Now, as I moved through that, each day I would connect, and each day I would ask him to come and say, okay, just give me one word, just one word. Because I was clairaudient. Clairaudient was my dominant clair. Now I receive in all ways. I hear it, feel it, see it, know it. But at the time, it was clairaudience and clairsentience. So I felt everything and heard. And so I said, just give me a word. So we'd just start with a word, and that was it. And I could handle that. I could get that word. And then, as we would go every day, I would ask for a word, like, let's complete the sentence. Okay, now the next word, now the next word. So eventually I had had a conversation in words. But then there was a day I was driving very kind of a little too fast down a country road, and just singing to the music, just enjoying the road. And JT has a special way that he likes to get my attention. He's done this from the beginning. He scratches my head. He scratches right here, like he's pulling my hair. And so he did that as I'm driving, and I said, "Oh, what's up? What do you need?" And he said, "Slow down." And I looked down at my speedometer. I'm going, oh, yeah, I guess I'm going 15 miles over the speed limit, 50 miles per hour over the speed limit. I guess I better slow down. So I slowed down just in time to come over this hill, and there was a sheriff at the bottom of the hill. And so I said, thanks, bud. And he goes, no problem. And I thought, I heard that.
Yeah.
I heard that. I heard it in his intonation. I heard it in the way that he spoke, the ups and downs. And so I started conversing with him. I said, wow, I heard that. Let's talk some more. And so we had a conversation right there in the car as I was driving. And from that moment on, I could hear full conversations from him. And that was such a turning point for me because I thought, wow, here it is. This is why I wanted to become a medium. Yes, I wanted to help others. I love helping others, parents, and also people who have lost parents, animals, if you have animals on the Rainbow Bridge, all of that. I wanted to help everybody, but I really wanted to talk to my kid. I wanted to have that conversation and that relationship with him. And I'm just so excited that we have that. Just so excited that we have that now. And that I talk every day to him. Every day I say, hey, how's it going? What you doing? All the stuff. They have amazing things that they do in that very energetic space, a
Yeah.
lot of creation and helping us, of course. So much of those energies are here to help us because we really need to get to our higher frequencies. So yeah, that's part of it as well. But it's just so beautiful being able to converse with him now.
That is so beautiful. And I want to get into some of the things that he has communicated with you about what he's doing over there, and anything else that he's shared that we can talk about today. But before we even do that, I was really surprised, and it's not the first time I've heard somebody say this, that you were connecting as a medium for other people before you connected with JT. Share a little bit about that journey of going from this devastation of losing your 7-year-old son to this realization that you're a medium and that this is the work you're supposed to do. And even before that, did you have any signs that you were a medium before he passed away?
Wow, probably I did. I've had prophetic dreams, many, many prophetic dreams in my 20s. In my 20s, I lived in California, early 20s, and I would have earthquake dreams. And within a couple of days, a major earthquake would happen somewhere. And I had to shut that down because that was just way too scary. I would end up sleeping clothed, having my clothes on and having a bag packed and all of it. It was just terrifying. And I said, I just can't do this anymore. So I shut that down. I said, yeah, we just can't do that. I knew that I was psychic. I would get information like when my stepbrother passed when I was 17, he came back very, very clearly in my dreams, in awake state. And again, I just had no idea that's where I needed to go or that's who I was. I just knew I could receive. And then again, more dreams with my grandmother after she left. And it wasn't until, gosh, it was August 2007, when I had a life between lives regression. And I discovered at that time, JT was right there in the regression. And I discovered that we had agreed to have him go. At the time, I didn't realize what it was for, but he says, yeah, we agreed to this. And I saw myself agree to it, that this was what we were going to do. We were going to do this so that we could share information with others. But I didn't understand what that really meant. It wasn't until about a month later I had a session with a medium. Never had been to a medium before. And this woman, she was in California. I was in Colorado at the time. And she said, did you know you're a medium? You are a medium. You are the bridge between this world and the next. And I said, wow, no.
Yeah.
What do you do? What do you do? Do you just wake up and start talking to dead people? How does that work? And she said, no, training, training, training. And so I got into training. Now, at the same time, I was reading a book from John Holland, an amazing medium. I just love that guy. His book was Power of the Soul. I was reading that as well because I was going to go see him in just a couple weeks after this medium session with the woman in California, because of coincidence. JT so set that up. He really did. He set it up for us to go, for his dad and I to go to see John Holland. But I was reading this book and he talks about the clairs and he talks about how we receive information from spirit. And one of the ways I said, clairsentience. And he has this list of things. You're clairsentient and one of them was if you have people in stores approach you like you're an employee and ask for directions somewhere. And I laughed because I said, I have that happen all the time. I wonder if this is it. Is this what I'm supposed to do? Am I supposed to be a medium? This was just like a day or so before that medium session. And so it all lined up. And that day after I read that, I was at Walmart of all places, and I had broken my toe. I was, stupid me. I got so frustrated that with grief and with my children, when you have small children and you just don't feel like you can grieve. I got
Mm,
mad and I kicked the bed. So I
mm.
broke my toe. And so I was in a motorized cart in Walmart and I am looking at toothpaste in my motorized cart at Walmart. And this woman approaches me and says, it's an older woman, and she says, excuse me, where are the curlers? I did not have my dark blue top on. I did not have my tan pants on. I was not an employee. I was in a motorized cart. And I started laughing because I thought, okay, that's my sign. That says to me, this is what I'm supposed to do. And so again, getting into training, I got into group training, I got into mentorship training, and again, within a month, kids from the other side started to come to me to get messages to their parents.
Wow. 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 Yeah, that is just remarkable. And how did that feel, being in this place where you're giving these readings for people who have lost children? Here you are, a newly a mom in this new experience of having lost your son. How, I just I'm having trouble putting myself in a place where I can imagine 6 months after your child dying, being in this place of helping other people in that way. What did that feel like?
Well, one thing for sure is I knew it was my purpose
Mm,
because of that life between lives regression that I had, where JT and I said, did we agree to this? Is this what we agreed to when we came into this lifetime? And he took me to a place, it was like looking into a window, and I could see myself, I could see my husband, I could see my children, and I saw myself say, "Yeah, that sounds great. Let's do it." Agreeing to it. So I knew there was purpose to it. I knew that I was supposed to be doing it. And it just made sense, right? It made sense for me to help other people. When you lose a child, as you know, you don't trust a lot of people. It's hard. I do now, of course, but in the beginning, my test would be, well, did you lose a kid? Do you have any idea what I'm going through? That kind of thing. And so many parents, that happens because it is such a unique grief. Now, it's not the only grief. Any grief is grief. But in the beginning, you're saying, okay, I'm only going to trust somebody if they have lost a child. And the very first teacher that I had in that mentorship, she lost a child and she was teaching. And that's the only reason I went to her. That's the only reason, because she knew where I was coming from. And that was so important to me to help others. Once I learned that JT was safe, I just wanted to know, are you safe? Are you okay? Where are you? And once I learned that through that medium session, I wanted to give that to other people. And
yeah.
again, not only parents, but anybody who has lost a child, or like I said, a pet or a parent or a sibling, anybody who has had a loss, because loss is loss.
Yes.
And just helping them to heal. That is really what I wanted to do. And this was the perfect opportunity to do it. Again, training, training, training. It definitely was a process. And working on hearing, doing my exercises every day to make sure that I was a clear receiver, to make sure that that I was accurate, because that's important. I wanted to make sure, especially if I was talking to a parent, I wanted to make sure they knew it was their kid. They
Right.
knew that I was talking to their child, or anybody else, again, anybody else having that evidence. And so it was really important to me to hone that, to get crystal clear, to get accurate, and work at it. And so that's what I did. Yeah. And it was only because, JT said, "Yeah, we agreed to this. This is your purpose." That's really it. And, it was a difficult, yeah.
Yeah,
It
I
was,
imagine.
because I was in grief and I was like, "Wow, I can I even do this?" But,
Yeah.
I was able to. One of the things that I learned was to pull myself out of the energy of the emotion of it. So if I had a parent in my office, or now, on Zoom, and they would experience the emotion, I just held space. Before, I thought, "Oh my gosh, how am I gonna do this? I'm just gonna fall in. I'm just gonna fall
Hmm.
into that." and I'm going to become a puddle, and that's not going to do any good for anybody. So I had to learn how to pull myself out of the emotion of it, the energy of that, still holding that compassion and still holding the space for them so that they could do that. Because again, it's healing. We're supposed to express that. So it was very important for me to do that without getting lost in it. And so again, working at it, I was determined. And JT, whoa, talk about determined. That kid has tenacity, boy. And again, he's never let me down as far as showing me who I need to talk to or what I need to do, what the next thing is for us to do together. He's always there, and he'll always say, "Hey, mom, what? What now?" I said, "Let's do this. Let's do this." He's the reason I'm in Florida. I mean, yes, I would have come anyway because I love the beach. I
I do
grew up
too.
on the beaches, so, but I wouldn't have come here on my own because it just wasn't in my idea. You stick yourself in a box. And I thought, oh, I'm just going to be in this box. And he said, nope, they need you out there. And I was like, no, they didn't need me. I needed them. I need
Mm,
that water. I go to the ocean every single time I can because it is so healing. And
mm.
that's why he brought me out here. It was for me and my family.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. I love that so much. I love this connection that you have built, and I love hearing about your healing journey and these what a lot of people would call alternative healing modalities that you sought out. And there's some people that might question mediumship and this
Yeah,
kind of connection, and you speak with such certainty, which I love. But one of the things I heard someone say not too long ago is it helpful, hopeful, and healing? And
I
that
love
is
that.
really the beautiful question to ask, because that is what spirit really wants to bring to us
Yes.
is things that are hopeful, helpful, and healing in our journey, because we're not meant to. We did come here to face challenges. We did agree to challenges. We do have these soul plans that we've
Right.
created before we've come. Innocently, I will say.
Yeah, we certainly don't remember it when we get here. Wow,
Well,
what a wake-up call, right?
and when you were sharing about remembering this soul plan, and you're like, sure, I'll do that. It's kind of like you want to go to the beach, sure, I'll do that. But then you get here and you go, oh my gosh, this is so impactful. This is so hard. This is so challenging. But I just love the journey that you've been on and that JT has taken you on. Tell us a little bit about what he's shown you about the other side, what he's doing. I'd love to hear more about that.
Absolutely. And it's a very, very special time, as you know, energetically. So much is changing on our planet, so much is changing in the universe. And it's all about getting to that other place, getting to that high frequency place. We have been so stuck. We really have. We just have been stuck here for decades, more than decades, right? And now it's the time to shift that. Now he's talking about, what do you want to create? That's what he asks me. He says, what do you want, mom? What do you want to create? And he's been, excuse me, hounding me, hounding others about, watch your thoughts, watch your intentions, watch what you say to others. And I have to catch myself
Mm,
in saying things that I used to say that were negative about myself or negative about what I could achieve. And he says, you can achieve anything, you can change anything. And so now he is all about helping us with that. Now, he is a creator. He is in the on the creation team over on the other side. And so he is creating other parts of the universe and all these amazing things. I remember asking him in the very beginning of our conversations together, I said, "What are you doing?" And he held out his hands and he showed me a ball of fire in his hands. And he says, I'm creating. And he was so excited about it. And I said, well, what are you creating? He says, I'm creating worlds. I'm creating life forms. I'm creating water. I'm just creating anything. And I love that because that's what we can do too here. We don't have to be confined by our physicalness. Of course, there's, some of those limitations just for our physical bodies, but energetically, we do not need to be confined by that. We can create something new. We can move ourselves into somewhere else that we need to be if it's for our highest good. And that's the other thing that he taught me. He says, always ask, is this for your highest good?
Mm-hmm.
Is this for the highest good? And so I put that out there. If it's for my highest good, let's do this. Let's
Mm-hmm.
do this. And so that's one of the things that he's doing. He's a huge, huge teacher. He has created not only the books, but also Oracle card deck. And people love this deck because he's right there when they're doing their readings, and he will help them in whatever way they need. So his job is teacher. That's really what he's doing. And again, he loves the creation side too. But I love that he can be here to help me navigate because man, it's a rough walk on this side of the veil. It's a rough walk, and any help I can get. And so I'll ask, okay, is going in this direction for my highest good, or do I need to go a different way? What kind of classes do you want me to teach? He is absolutely my teacher in the classes. I just facilitate. I just put the stuff together that he tells me to put together, but he and the other masters, they're the ones that are doing the teaching. And so those kinds of things, his job is to help us. His job is to get us, where we need to go, to get us out of the box that we put ourselves in. And believe me, I'm still working on it. I do work on it continuously, and he'll stop me and he'll say, Mom, stop that. Stop talking like that. That's not getting you anywhere. That's not going to get you what you want. You can create it. So how do you want to say that, Mom, to create this instead of just accepting what is in your world right now?
Yeah.
So I love that. I love that we can change it. We don't have to just accept what's in our world. We can move it out of the way. He is, it's a form of manifesting, but really it's so much more than that. It's creation.
Mm-hmm.
And we are all creators. We are all from the other side. We all have soul on the other side. So we are all in that energy. So yeah, we can do that here too. There is nothing that is in our worlds right now that we cannot change. Nothing. That's what he tells me. That's what I believe. That's what I keep moving forward with. And that's what I feel too.
Yeah.
All the things that he's shown me and all the things that have manifested for me or that have come forward for my reality. That's what I feel.
That's beautiful. I This is an interesting question, and it came to me while you were sharing that. For those who don't have someone on the other side, a parent, someone that's close to them, a parent, a child, a spouse, that they can connect with and they can receive that type of guidance, what would you suggest to someone who doesn't necessarily feel a connection with someone that was close to them here on the other side?
We all have such a support team. I'm an incredible support team. You don't have to know them from this lifetime. You knew them over there on the other side. You might not know them here, but we have guides. We have specialty guides. This was a new one for me. I thought, specialty guide, what even is that? And what JT said was someone that comes in when you need something special. So a specialty guide can help you with your clairs. Yeah, you can learn how to hear better with a clairaudient guide. You can learn how to see better with a clairvoyant guide, or you can learn how to do your books, do your accounting with an accounting guide. There are so many assistants there, and they don't care that we have not done these things up until now. They don't care that we weren't raised in religion or not religion, or that we, did whatever, that we yelled at our father. Yeah, it doesn't matter. They are there to help us now. So we don't need to worry about what we have done in the past. We are those very special energies from the other side. We are here to have these, like you were saying, these lessons, these contracts to fulfill a purpose. And if we can't find that purpose, then we have amazing energies on the other side who can help us find that. And I have plenty of clients who just come to me for psychic readings, for readings about, why is this happening in my world right now? I do Akashic records, diving back into that in between life state or the past lives, things like that. Why am I stuck? Why can't I go across a bridge? Those kinds of things. And all of that is from their high guides. We all have high guides. We all have what is called a high council. This high council helped us choose this lifetime and helped us choose the lessons that we wanted to do. And we came in willingly. Yes, we did. It's hard sometimes to accept that. Why would I come willingly into this place? But we did because we are students and we're learning. And as we go through these lessons and we learn, we get to tuck that away and go, oh, wow, look at that. I learned that. So that when we do go back into spirit, into energy form, we can say, wow, look at all that I learned this lifetime. Isn't that great? That's just awesome. So much more than the lifetime before that. So
Yeah,
we have a lot of helpers, a lot of energies that are just here to get us into where we need to go, to get us into purpose.
I love that. Share a little bit about how the book came to be and what that process looked and felt like for you.
Wow. Yes. So, all along after I had conversation with him, I would ask him, okay, what are you doing now? Tell me what you're doing right this very minute. And he would have these stories. And I say stories because it was out of this world, the things that he was telling me that he was doing. And I accepted it, of course, because I am a clear receiver. I learned, I've honed my craft. So I know that I wasn't just making it up. And this is not stuff I would have had in my brain. Absolutely not. And so he told me it was after my second book. I was working on this workbook because I really wanted to get out there that it's simpler to connect to the other side than what you think. It's much, much simpler. And so I put a workbook out and he said, as soon as we're done with this, I want to write a book. And I said, okay, let's see how that goes. You can't really get to a typewriter, honey. But he says, Mom,
But you can.
yeah, but you can. So, right. I mean, I had just published that workbook. And he said, okay, now it's my turn. And I said, can you just give me a month? Can you just give me a month to relax? I've just put two books out in 2 years. Can we just take a break? And he said, nope, I need this out now. And so we
Mhm.
started right away. I said, okay, give me the energy then. And what I did was I had a Word document up, and then I had a headset with a microphone, and I would get clear. I would do my meditation, all of that. And then I would say, okay, let's go. And he would dictate to me. It was like I was in my old word processing job way, way, way back when. I'm aging myself, but I had a word processing job where I just listened to recordings, right? And just transcribed. And that's what we would do. And some of the things that he would say, I would say, what are you talking about? Let me take a moment. And I would have to step away from the keyboard and just kind of assimilate. So I would step away from the keyboard and I would say, okay, let's talk about this a little bit more. Because if I'm going to write this in a book, this is going to have my name on it. I need to understand it. And
Mhm.
so we did. He explained everything to me. And this was back in that book came out in 2014, I think.
Really?
And it's still just amazing. And it's a great beginner's book. It's a little bit, maybe a little bit beginners and then a little bit higher than that. but it has the way he talks is just so beautiful. He really can give an explanation without losing you, and that's what I loved about writing it because he puts it in such simple terms. And so that's what we did. We just wrote it and he wanted it out that year, which can you imagine? I mean, I did it, but that was something else, putting this entire book together, getting it to the editor, getting it, getting the cover done. I mean, everything came together. Of course it did because he was guiding it. He was making it happen. But incredible, incredible stuff in there. And it's so funny because the things that he put in there, I'd never heard before. I'd only heard it from him. Since that book was published, now I hear it from other people. I hear it from other authors who are downloading as well. And so it's so fascinating to me that we're getting this information, that they are giving us this information, and that's the whole thing, is that we need to have this info now because we need to know who we are. We need to understand that we're not just humans just trucking around on planet Earth, that we are so much more than that, and that we have so much more to do here. And we are, again, we are creators, we are innovators, and we can create whatever we need to create here.
Mm. Yeah, and his personality definitely comes out in the book, and he takes us right from the beginning of his experience moving to the other side. I really I absorbed that book so quickly. I could not put it down. It was um really remarkable. I really loved it. And so I appreciate that you were his scribe so that he could put
Thank
that
you.
book out into the world. It was really beautiful. Before we go, any last second things that you want to share, bits of wisdom that you'd like to share with us? And also share with us a little bit about maybe spiritual practices that you do regularly to stay connected.
Yeah, definitely. So the big thing again that JT always tells me is, again, we are creators. Do not think that you can't change your world. And I know some of you, it's tough. It feels like you are just never going to get out of where you're at. But I promise you that with some shifting and with some changing of, some of the mind stuff that we do, some of the programming that we do, you can do that. JT has shown it to me over and over again, and I've seen it in work too. I've seen it work for other people. So you are a creator. You are never, ever, ever alone. You always have your helpers. And please, it doesn't matter if you're the only person in your room. You have a host of people around you. It's incredible. And all you need to do is just ask them to show themselves or to feel them. And it kind of depends on how you receive information from spirit, how you're going to get it. So don't expect them to like appear like like what happens in the Ghost Whisperer, right? It might happen so different. For me, it was hearing and feeling. So definitely you have that ability. And then, what I had to do for my practice was meditate every day. And it doesn't have to be sitting in silence. It doesn't have to be a certain kind of meditation. I did walking meditations. Labyrinths are amazing for meditation. I definitely, because of my monkey mind, I used to be an engineer. So the brain just goes and goes and goes and goes. So I do use guided meditations, and I have some of those on my website that you're welcome to use just to get into it, just to get your mind kind of prepped, so that your mind can let go and let your spirit talk, let your spirit take you where you need to go. That is absolutely critical if you want to do your connection, if you want to connect with your beautiful helpers. I have mentorship programs. I have private mentorship programs that are running. So one-on-one training, where you can learn how you specifically receive from spirit. I love doing these for anybody who's has a loved one on the other side and they want to connect with them, or if you just want to connect with your high guides, just to know, well, hey, what am I doing here? That is amazing. It's an amazing program. And again, I'm not doing it, your guides are doing it. So it's really beautiful. And, those are the main things. Again, I do sessions all the time. I do medium sessions and psychic sessions and lots of different options all on my website. And again, I just love what I do. I love what I do now. I didn't like getting here. I didn't like that he had to go for me to
Right.
do it, but I get it. And we talk about that. I say, it kind of just sucks that you had to go, but I get it. I understand that you're much happier where you're at and you are much more effective where you're at. And I just need to be here. I need to do my stuff here so that I can be your voice. So we have a great relationship now.
Wonderful. And share with everyone where they can connect with you. You mentioned your
So
website.
yeah, so the website is sarinabaptista.com. That's a little difficult to spell. So also bridge2healing.com. Spell the TO out for the two. Bridge2healing.com will get you to sarinabaptista.com. Or you can just try typing it in and see what comes up. No, I actually don't recommend that because you never know what's going to come up on the internet, right? Now go to bridge2healing.com, or you can put it maybe you can put it in the comments or something like that when you put
Yes,
this out,
it'll be in
Julie.
the show notes. Yes.
Great.
Yes, the links will be in the show notes as well.
Wonderful.
As well.
Yeah.
So amazing. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story with us today, sharing your love and your wisdom. We really appreciate it.
I'm just so grateful to be here, and thank you for this opportunity. Thank you for this forum, to get the information out there. It just is, there's so much information that we have, and most people don't even realize it. So thank you for being that for us in providing that, this media for it.
Well, I have to say it's somewhat selfish because I just love having these conversations, and I love hearing the stories and exploring these different aspects because like you said, everyone is going to receive in a different way. And so
Right.
when there's going to be something about your story that is going to connect with somebody, and there's going to be something about someone else's story that's going to connect, and
Right.
all these little connections just start putting the puzzle together for all of us. So
Exactly.
again, thank you.
Thank you so much, Julie. It's been beautiful to be here.